Hello and welcome to this video and to my best and worst books of the year, which yes is a little early. I'm filming this on the 20th, so there is still like 11 days of the year that I could be reading books, or that I will be reading books, but I'm hedging my bets that they won't be my favourites, and I'm pre-filming this so that it can go out when I'm on my Christmas travels, because it's just easier for me that way. So, bit of context on the year. I wasn't sure how the reading year was going to go. If you have just clicked on this video as your first video of mine, I had a baby back in February, so January was a really good reading month. I got loads done because I was just off work and not doing anything except reading. I then had my baby in February, and then I've had to try and work my way into reading again. Obviously when she was newborn it did take a bit of time, but in recent months, so from probably August, September, I've been solidly reading at least 4 books a month, and that's just sort of increasing along with like the length of the book as well, which is roughly what I was doing before I had a baby anyway. I was probably more 5, 6, I'm now probably 4, 5, so it's about the same, which I'm really happy with because reading is a thing that I really enjoy. It brings me a lot of happiness. It also helps me unwind and stuff from the day, so it's a big part of my routine. So I was a bit worried that that would go, but it does mean that I have read a whole wide array of stuff this year to try and find my groove, along with like short Kindle books that I've had on there since like 2012 to just normal my TBR shelf basically. Like I have done in previous years, we're going to go with the 2 books that are my least favourite, and we're going to show the 2 books that are my favourite, and then I've got an honourable mention for both categories which I'll slot in the middle. So in at the bottom of the list, not as the worst, I think I'll go the slightly better and then the worst. I know it's all over the place, but the book that comes in penultimate bottom is Love Lessons by Jacqueline Wilson, which is in this box and I can't be bothered to get it out because it's going into the world at some point soon. Love Lessons is about our main character, Prue. She is a 14-year-old girl who has been homeschooled for majority of her life. Her dad gets sick, so she's sent to a mainstream school and struggles to fit in and that kind of thing. So strikes up a relationship with her art teacher, which is not normal. So I was a big fan of Jacqueline Wilson as a younger person, sort of from about 8 to maybe like 13 was probably my Jacqueline Wilson years, maybe slightly younger. I really liked this book when I read it when I was younger. I thought it was great. I didn't see any problems with it. Rereading it as an adult, I disliked it a lot. I thought it was not a good book to be putting in young people's hands. I did not like Prue. I thought she was a horrible character, and the whole relationship with her teacher is just wrong, and there is no fallout from it. There's no consequence for that relationship. It's just all sort of gone, oh fine, and it's not fine. It's not fine. It's not a nice book to read. I'm sort of going through, I was doing it a bit more towards the beginning of the year, but I'm sort of going through my Jacqueline Wilson books to reread them so that I can know whether I like them and think that Eloise, my daughter, can read them eventually when I feel and she wants to, if she ever does. And Love Lessons was an instant no for me. I was like, there is no way I'm going to let her read that book unless we have a lot of conversations about it during the reading process, but it is not one that's staying on my shelves for her to read. So that is my penultimate worst book, and more because it angered me than because it's bad. Like, it's a Jacqueline Wilson book, it's not badly written, but I just did not like the subject matter, and that one rates a 3.09 on Storygraph, which is the app that I use. I'm not a Goodreads person, I'm a Storygraph person. I rated that one 2.5 stars. So you're probably wondering, what book could be worse than that? And that book, and the winner of the worst book I've read this year, is Perfect Crime by Jack Erickson. This is a novella that came out in 2009. I've had it on my Kindle for ages. When I decided that I really needed to kickstart my reading properly, I went in with lots of novellas on my Kindle that have been there for ages, and this was one of them. And in this we are following a woman in America, I think it might be California, San Francisco, that kind of area, who has basically plotted the perfect crime to kill her husband to get away with it. And you know, things unfold from that. The premise of the story isn't that bad. It is a novella, as I said, so it's very short, so nothing is expanded on, and that's part of the problem. But the writing of this was awful. Everything was a simile. It made no sense why we were just describing everything like that. Just really badly written. And then they had this like big reveal twist right at the end, and you're like, that's pants. So yeah, wouldn't recommend. Real bad, very short, but real bad writing, and I gave that 1.5 stars, and this has a 2.89 rating on Storygraph, so I'm not dissimilar to everybody else on that platform. Those are definitely the worst books that I've read. There is like another one that I rated 2.5, but I don't remember it at all, which is probably why I rated it 2.5, and that's another one that could have been an honourable mention, but I'm not going to share it this time, because it was fine while I was reading it, just not great. However, my honourable mention is one that I finished like 2 days ago and read it in one day, so I won't talk too much about it because you will see it in my December wrap up, which will come probably about the third week of January. A bit late, I know, but that's when it will come. And that is In a New York Minute, that's hard to say, a bit nasal, by Eleanor Moran. Again, novella on my Kindle that I've had for ages. It's supposed to be a Christmas book. It finished at 46% on my Kindle. There is no story. I'm not even sure I can rate this book because I don't feel there was actually a story. Watch my December wrap up to hear more thoughts on that book. So let's move into the more cheerful, happy areas of my reading, and let's start right at the beginning. So on the 1st of January I sat and I read the entire Heartstopper series. So I'd read the first 4, read the 5th one for the first time, so I'm just going to hold up the first one as a, to show you what it is, but I mean the whole series. This is my honourable mention for good reads, my favourite reads. I really like the Heartstoppers. I think the comic style, I think the style of it is really good. I really like the story. I really like Nick and Charlie. I think it's a very wholesome but realistic relationship that they have, and like how it's developed. There are a few things about this that irk me a bit, but on the whole I really like it, and all of these comics got about 4.5 stars from me. Did one get 4? No, I think I upped it. So they all got 4.5 stars from me, which is a solid series in my eyes, really good. So that's my honourable mention for my favourite books of the year. But let's move in to my actual favourite reads of the year. Starting with, and I don't really know which order to do it in, but I think I'm gonna show you this one first because I can't stop thinking about the first one, and I read that back in January. I've had 2 5 stars this year. The latter one, the one that I've read most recently, was Carrie Soto is Back by Taylor Jenkins Reid. It still has a bookmark in it because my husband Pete, who doesn't read, has started reading this one because of the amount I talked about it, and it's about tennis and he likes tennis. So yeah, Carrie Soto is Back is the 4th in, I don't know the name of the series, that Taylor Jenkins Reid did with a person featured from each decade. Carrie Soto is a tennis player. She is like #1 best in the world and then retires, and 5 years later there is someone who's about to take her crown, so she comes out of retirement to try and retain that title. And we go through a whole heap of character development. There's some really good relationships with her dad and other tennis players in it, and I just really like Taylor Jenkins Reid's writing style. I think it's really good. It's a toss-up between this one and Daisy Jones and the Six as to which one's my favourite, but definitely a highlight of the year for me, this book. I read it in November, which is late. I've been wanting to read this book since I heard about it and it came out in hardback, so for me to then leave it till November was slightly annoying, but so glad I got to it. Favourite book. Really enjoyed it, and now I'm forcing it on other people. So obviously Pete's reading this one, I'm going to force the series on my mum as well because I think she might like them. But highly recommend all 4 books. They're all good books, but this one in particular and Daisy Jones and the Six are my favourite, and just really like the subject matter and things in this. Again, I'll link my November book review so you can hear more full thoughts on this. So the book that comes in at number 1 and my favourite book of the year was a surprise actually to me because it has a historical element to it. I've historically, excuse the pun, said that I'm not into that, although a lot of the books that I've read this year that I've really liked have had that, so maybe I'm changing my taste. But the number 1 book is Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmus. So I read this back in January. As I said, I read a lot of books in January. And this is following Elizabeth Zott, who is a chemist, but she is a chemist in the 60s, where women basically aren't, not that they're not allowed, but they're not respected or anything in the field, so she doesn't get very far. And then she is scouted for a TV show, a cooking show, to which she brings in scientific elements, much to their horror, and it's all around that and about relationships that she has. There are definitely trigger warnings in this for various things that I don't want to go into because I don't want to spoil it, but within the first chapter there's a very shocking scene which did catch me by surprise. This seems like quite a happy cover. This is not quite such a happy book, but really enjoyed it. Originally I rated it 4.5 stars, but as I said, I've just kept thinking about this book for the whole year and how good this book is, so I have upped it to a 5-star. And the only reason I didn't give it 5 stars was because I was a little bit aggravated by the ending, because the ending isn't really related to Elizabeth Zott and to women. So that was the original part that dropped it from a 5-star. It would have been a 5-star if it hadn't been for that. But as I said, because I've kept thinking about it, there is no way this book can't be a 5-star, and it can't be my favourite book of the year because it's just keeps being replayed in my head. And I've read this book almost a year ago to filming this now, and it's just so good. And she's got a dog that is just the best, and I just really enjoyed it. I thought it was clever the way it was written. As I said, like Carrie Soto, there's some really good relationship building and stuff in it, and just the writing style in general is nice. I don't know whether Bonnie Garmus has actually written anything else or will be writing anything else, but I cannot wait to see what else the author comes out with. So where Richard E. Grant says absolutely unputdownable, I would agree. This one also has a TV show which I quite enjoyed, although it does not quite match the book, and the book is better than the TV show. So yeah, favourite book. So hopefully I've inspired you to either not read or read some of these books, and would be really interested if you could share with me in the comments below what your best and worst books are of 2024. We now move into another year. A lot more changes again for me this year, what with going back to work, Eloise starts nursery, changes to routines. I've joined a book club, so I've got that. The first book we're reading is Legends and Lattes, so I've got that as the first book in January to read. So yeah, things change again and we roll with it, and hopefully, well not hopefully, but reading will play a big part in that year too, because as I said, it just brings me so much joy and so much calm and just helps me wind down and all of that kind of stuff. So if you've enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already, please go ahead and click that subscribe button. We have another year of book reviews coming for you here on this channel, along with other vlogs from just daily life. So yeah, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!